All right, let's talk about a super powerful move you can make in your academic career. We're going to look at how to turn the work you have to do, like that thesis literature review, into a publication that can actually make a splash, something that really shapes your field and your future. Think of this as the playbook for publishing high-impact review articles and book chapters.
So, this is the big question, right? It's something every grad student thinks about. You spent all this time, months, maybe even years, just drowning in research papers for your thesis. How do you take that giant mountain of reading and turn it into something more than just a chapter that, let's be honest, only a handful of people on your committee will ever read? How do you make all that work really, truly count?
And this slide just lays it all out perfectly. A required thesis chapter, well, it's often just a compilation. It's passive. It summarizes what other people have done. It checks a box. But an impactful review article, that's an active force. It doesn't just summarize, it analyzes, it critiques, and it points the way forward. It literally identifies the gaps for future research. It goes from a requirement read by a few people to a genuine conversation starter read by many. That, right there, is the level up we're aiming for.
Okay, so to make that leap, you have to know what publishers are actually looking for. And the good news is, it's not some big secret. They pretty much tell you exactly what they want. So let's look at the rules of the game straight from the source.
And here it is, right from the horse's mouth. This is a direct quote from the journal Bioresource Technology, and they could not be more clear. They don't want a history lesson. They want cutting-edge info and actual analysis and a roadmap for the future. And that last sentence is the one to underline, bold, and highlight. It should not be merely a compilation of literature. That is the #1 trap that a simple thesis chapter can fall into.
So let's just break this down into some golden rules. First, you've got to focus on what's new, the recent stuff. And don't be afraid to offer your own critical opinions where it makes sense. You're the expert here. You have to build a narrative, a story, using clear subheadings to guide the reader along. The whole point is to create something that's more valuable than just the sum of its parts. You're creating a new overview, a new synthesis.
Okay, so let's dive into the how. Knowing the rules is one thing, but you also have to pick a strategy. And it turns out there isn't just one way to write a great review. There are actually 4 pretty distinct paths you can take, and each one adds value in its own unique way.
First up, we've got the classic, the state-of-the-art review. This is probably what you think of when you hear review article. You're surveying the current landscape, you're critically looking at the latest studies, and most importantly, you're telling the research community, okay people, here's where we are right now, and here's where we should probably go next.
And here's a perfect example. This paper on AB fermentation doesn't just give you a laundry list of recovery methods. No way. It actually reviews them, breaks down the pros and cons of each one, and talks about how they can be integrated. It gives the reader a complete analytical toolkit on that one specific topic.
Path number 2 is a totally different beast. This is the bibliometric analysis. Instead of a story or a critique, this is all about the data. You're using quantitative tools to literally map out the entire field. You're looking at who's publishing what, who's working with whom, which papers are making the biggest waves. You're basically revealing the hidden social and intellectual structure of your research world.
I mean, check out this example on corn biomass. They analyzed over 2,500 articles. Can you imagine? And from that, they were able to map out the key technologies, the main areas of focus. It's more than a review. It's like a data-driven portrait of an entire field. And it gives you insights a normal review just can't.
Okay, our third path is the new understanding review. This is where you get to put on your visionary hat. You're not just reporting on what's out there. You're taking all that existing work, synthesizing it, and using it to propose something fundamentally new, a new concept, a new framework, a whole new way of looking at the problem.
This paper on water splitting is a fantastic example. The authors didn't just list a bunch of techniques. They reviewed them all to build a case for a new, combined approach to studying the process. They basically used the existing literature as building blocks to construct a totally novel idea.
And finally, the fourth and maybe the most advanced strategy, the roadmap review. This one is so cool. Here, you add a huge layer of value because you start by doing your own calculations or simulations to set a hard quantitative target. Then, you review all the literature through one simple lens. How close are we to actually hitting this target? So, for example, in this paper on biobutanol, the authors first simulated the whole process to figure out a minimum target for butanol concentration. They calculated it needed to be 36 grams per liter. Then they went and reviewed all the current research to see how it stacked up. This completely changes the game. It's not a summary anymore. It's a goal-oriented analysis. It's incredibly powerful.
Now, before this all starts to sound too intimidating, let's have a quick reality check. Publishing a high-impact review is tough. The author shares this great story about Professor Lee Lind, who is a giant in his field. A recent paper of his, a review proposing a new use for lignin, was rejected twice. It finally got accepted by the third journal. I mean, if it can happen to him, it can happen to any of us. The lesson is simple. Be resilient. Rejection is just part of the process.
Okay, so moving on from journal articles, there's another path that might pop up for you, the book chapter. You should think of this like a side quest on your academic adventure. It's got its own unique rewards, but it also has its own challenges. It's just not the same as the main quest of publishing that review article.
And the very first thing you need to get your head around is the timeline, because it is long. Seriously. The author shares his own experience here. He got an invitation in November 2016. He submitted the chapter about 6 months later, and the book didn't actually come out until 2020. That's over 3 years from start to finish. This is definitely not a quick and easy publication to pad your CV for an upcoming deadline.
So that email lands in your inbox. An invitation to write a book chapter. How do you decide what to do? Journal article or book chapter? This is a real strategic call, and you've got to weigh the pros and cons carefully.
What's so interesting here is the clear trade-off. On the plus side, yeah, book chapters are often by invitation, the review is way less grueling, and you almost never get rejected. It can be a great way to get your name out there. But the downsides are pretty big. You've got that super long publication time, the less rigorous review means flaws can get missed, and, this is the big one, it's just not seen as being as valuable as a peer-reviewed journal article. Oh, and once it's in a book, you can't publish that same research in a journal. It's a one-and-done deal.
So the crucial thing is to be strategic. The author gives us this brilliant 3-point checklist. Before you say yes to an invitation, just ask yourself these 3 things. Number 1, is this an extra project, something on the side that won't take away from your main research articles? 2, are the editors and the publisher well-known, respected leaders in your field? And 3, who else is writing for this book? Are they big names, maybe even international collaborators? If you can say a strong yes to all 3, then it's probably a good move.
In the end, all of these decisions, which type of review you're going to write, whether you accept that book chapter invitation, it all boils down to this one question. Are you the expert who maps the field with data? Are you the one who synthesizes old ideas into a brand new vision? Or are you the one who sets concrete, measurable targets for the entire field to chase? Your publication strategy isn't just about getting papers on your CV, it's about actively building your identity as a researcher. So the real question is, what kind of expert do you want to be?